All right, and it is recording.
It is recording.
I see the red. God damn it! I see the red test.
Test. We're testing. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Just do it again. All right, folks. Well, it's really funny because we literally just did this whole podcast episode, spoke for a good hour. Oh, no, it was like half an hour and stuff.
Half
but
an hour.
I'm so sorry, Drew. We're going to have to record this again. But hey,
It's a nice afternoon. We'll
Absolutely.
hopefully hear some more cheers. We've got a crowd swelling outside for the looks like USA-Brazil game. There's lots of Brazilian flags and US flags outside, so
I
you
feel
might hear
like-
cheering in the background.
I feel like we're sports commentators. Like, if only the game was out here and we're commenting on the yachts or something like that, Sydney to Hobart or something.
Perfect.
All right. Well, look, folks, we're going to get started in 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome back, folks. It's Mark here from the Oz DeFi Association. I'm here with my guest, Drew Bradford from JellyC. Thanks very much for coming down.
Thank you, Mark, for having me.
We are doing this again, but let's get into your background. But tell us a bit more about how you got started in this space. You come from traditional banking and NAB and other places, but what brought you into the Web3 space? Because you're a recent convert, so this is...
Yes, I'm a very recent convert. I finished off at NAB at the end of April, so I'm a new 100% convert. But my journey has been in the crypto blockchain space has started early, but it's been in and out. So
Interesting.
I worked for Deutsche Bank. I used to run FX trading for Deutsche Bank in London, and had a lot to do with the hedge fund sales in my TradFi career.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my clients at the time was Raoul when he was at GLG.
He was one of your clients.
It was a client, and then he migrated over and set up the GMI, his global macro investor.
Mm-hmm.
So I became an early subscriber. I'm still a subscriber of GMI.
Shout outs to Raoul.
And I think it was about 2013 in his monthly investor note that he started talking about Bitcoin.
Interesting.
So I started to, so I had my first little dabble, and it was I remember watching it go up, and when it got up to about $700, I think I bought my first couple of coins, and literally
Nice.
I just put bought 10 or something, just to sort of have a look. Lost keys, got stolen, or whatever. So I was out of the game, and I thought, oh, this isn't a great game. And then around 2017, started to get interested again. And
Yep.
instead of doing it myself,
Yeah.
I invested in a couple of funds.
Okay.
And so whilst I had that little pip up to Bitcoin, went up to 20K at the end of 2017, one
Yep.
of the funds I invested in, at that time. So 2018 wasn't a great time in the space, but... So I just watched those two funds, and net on net over 19, 20, stuff like that. They did quite well. And where I started to get really interested in was actually literally as COVID started, and I just watched interest rates go to zero and every government around the world printing money. And I thought, this is Bitcoin's environment because it's going to go to the moon. It's the only thing that you can... know that there's only ever going to be 21 million of them. You've got to get into this, and you've got to get. And I think Bitcoin was 7, 8 thousand ish at the time. So that's when I got much more involved, and I was involved when Michael Prendeville, who set up JellyC's the digital asset manager. He used to run a macro fund, bonds, FX.
Mm-hmm.
And when that actually became quite boring in 2018, 2019, very low vol, Michael looked to change that into a digital fund. So I was involved sort of as an advisor while I was still at NAB to helping him and Ash Cooper set up JellyC, and now fully involved.
And neighbours of ours as well.
And neighbours of not centralised. Our office at Martin Place.
It's if you're ever around, folks, definitely come knock on our doors. We're just there at WeWork when we're not over at Stone and Chalk. But it's really interesting the journey that you've come in from, because coming from traditional finance, or TradFi as we know it in this space, people kind of have felt like the Web3 space, like it wasn't as much as embracing as it was. I definitely know that there's people that in the space that have been there for a while that have fit with the crypto ideals. They've kind of felt that there's this, I don't want to say encroaching in a bad way, but they've definitely voiced their concerns that the vibe is changing. But I think my view is that we kind of need that in a way, because we need more mainstream folks coming in. This was not going to survive if it was just this little bubble. You need folks that have experience in traditional systems to know how we're going to improve those traditional systems. So, what do you think about that? Yeah.
Well, look, the underlying tech is just so good. The whole three-way ledger system rather than a two-way ledger system, and it being immutable, that you can track everything, that solves a lot of traditional problems.
Right.
It can't. I get the, what do you call, Bitcoin maximalists who want a break the old system down. I can get where they're coming from.
Sure, yeah.
I just don't see that being the future. I can see why they want to do that. There's a whole lot of stuff that isn't good in the traditional things.
Of course.
Hopefully blockchain can help improve the traditional things. And across multiple industries, I can really see it in the inefficiencies in banking, because that's where I spent 30 plus years.
Yeah.
But it's across multiple industries. A combination of AI and blockchain technology, the world's going to change.
We've spoken about it separately about some of these other industries, inefficiencies out there, whether it's to do with trade finance or even in ag tech. And what is it like? Farm, like not equipment, but like wheat and things like that, just getting moved around like so slowly and taking so long for farmers to get paid and stuff.
Yeah, and banks hate financing what they call inventory financing, because they don't know where the inventory is. It could be in warehouse. There's been plenty of situations where 2 or 3 people thought that they owned the goods in the warehouse.
No way.
And and that doesn't always work. But blockchain, you know who owns what, where it is along a transport supply chain. So this will solve all sorts of problems like that. It'll solve ownership and things in escrow so that they can't get stolen. You can have a wallet. You can't take it out of this particular wallet until A, B, and C has happened.
You've had triggers.
You've got triggers, and the technology is too good to keep in a decentralized area. It's for the whole world.
I absolutely agree. And before we get into further kind of stuff, let's talk a bit more about JellyC and what's it all about. Like, for people that haven't heard, they might not have been at the Oz DeFi event in Sydney on Wednesday of last week during the Digital Asset Conference. They might not have heard about JellyC, but what would you tell people about it if they wanted to learn more? Like, what is it basically?
Okay. So JellyC, Michael Critter Prendeville, JellyC was born out of Critter's macro hedge fund. So he has run, he's worked in around the world, not just Perth, Singapore, London.
Wow.
He's run prop trading for banks, set up a macro hedge fund, and as I mentioned, if you remember 2000, it was 17, 18, 19, bonds didn't move, FX didn't move, and you couldn't get the returns that you wanted for your traditional macro clients. Critter looked at setting up a digital assets fund. So JellyC has 2 funds now. Its original Blue Bottle fund is a multi-strat fund. It's about 50% liquid exchange traded tokens, ETH, Bitcoin, etc., and 50% seed projects. So it invests in startups. It's a bit of a VC type.
Very interesting.
Early stage token seed projects. So it gives somebody, and we had friends that wanted to get into space.
Yep.
Wanted exposure to the whole space, not just by Bitcoin.
Yep.
And were very nervous about, 1, sending money overseas to overseas managers.
Yep.
And 2, quite often the big funds, whether it's Pantera or whatever, have big minimums, a lot of the offshore funds. So send my $1 million US or 500,000 US, send it offshore, BVI, not sure.
Yep.
So we wanted to give access to give an Australian-run fund, Australian audited, Australian trustees. You can put in $50,000. We're not going to blow anyone up, and that. And you can see it. It's all auditable, all done here. So that was the aim.
Nice.
So that was the first fund.
Yep.
And we've got, our target was high net worth family offices. We've literally just set up the second fund, 1st of July, which is more a yielding, what we call a digital infrastructure fund, node fund, node validation. So that's literally been started off with Ash's, Critters, and my cash. So we've got, we're in there to make sure everything works. And about November, making sure everything works, we'll be running around marketing the second fund.
And you've got skin in the game, which I think
Absolutely.
is really important. Really great to hear that you've got these funds, and you've got a bit of JellyC. Like if you look at the website, one of the first things you'll notice, folks, is there's a bit of an ocean theme to it. Why is that? Can you give us a bit of background?
Oh, it's Critter loves his ocean swimming.
Yeah.
We're sponsoring the Port to Pub swim in Perth, 16th of March next year. Where it's a 20k swim from over to Rottnest Island. So I've got a little bit of training to do between now and then. You'll see me at Boyd Charlton getting lessons or making sure that I roll correctly. There's different swimming in the ocean than there is in a pool.
Of course.
So yeah, and like this, the whole there is a bit of a theme. Everyone believes it. The ocean cleanliness, things like that. So we're supporting projects that do a bit of wildlife conservation. So we've bought a few NFTs that are active in the space.
Okay.
Some of the gorilla ones helping out East Africa.
Fantastic to hear that not only that you guys have that as like a viewpoint of a good give back to the world, really, in the community, but also that you're investing in others that are doing that kind of stuff too. So I think people will definitely see that when they go to the website and learn more. And going back to it, like we spoke about blockchain technologies and stuff there, the other things that we're seeing that people do mention that they want, and we spoke about it a bit before, kind of wanting to burn down traditional kind of systems and starting from afresh. And one of the things that we'd heard with debt being a bad thing all of a sudden was, well, let's get rid of fractional reserve banking. We don't need it and stuff. And it's like a lot of these people, until they actually learn and understand how systems actually work, they wouldn't like that. We've even had to speak to the community and talk to them about things. Well, without fractional reserve banking, you don't have business loans and personal loans and home loans. Like there are things that it was good at in terms of credit creation, and yes, there's these inefficiencies, but what can you say more about some of those inefficiencies that are there and that you're seeing, and how do you think that startups working in this space should look to try to tackle some of those?
I guess you look at where there's either fragility or inefficiencies.
Okay.
And you could start off fragility first, and you look at the percentages of the people that are unbanked.
Yeah.
People moving remittances around, it's expensive, really expensive. And if you look at where those unbanked people are, and where blockchain has got some real applications, you think of whether it's Africa or Asia, where you've got a lot of countries that are trading with each other, but have very liquid foreign exchange rules.
Yep.
So all the countries in Africa, even within Asia, you go to Europe, everyone can trade in the euro. It's easy.
Yep.
Dollars, easy. But if you're in an unbanked area, it's actually hard to do commerce. And blockchain technology could easily help all of that, and frictionlessly make payments that can be, like the old zero knowledge, right? Just bang, payments there, smart contracts, money changes hands when goods change hands.
Well, so, USDC, for example, we're seeing it used more and more in these not even US countries. It's because it's this common currency,
simple,
as you mentioned.
and it's simple to transact.
It's crazy to think, and we're seeing it with a lot of people will criticize. Well, okay, you've got crypto. Well, how am I supposed to use stuff with, like, how am I supposed to pay for bread and how am I supposed to pay for drinks and all this kind of stuff with crypto? Well, you're seeing these partnerships with folks like MasterCard, right? Like MasterCard is getting in the game with companies like Stables, who's one of our sponsors, and now you can have your Stables card. You can pay for these goods and services with literally
USDC,
crypto.
yeah.
So these things that people had as criticisms in the past that are just being overcome. Does it remind you of back when you mentioned before, like the whole cloud computing?
Oh, look, I've watched banks when banks. I don't mean to bag them.
Yeah,
But they're slow to adopt, cautious to adopt new technology. And literally, I remember, early 90s when the internet, and asking, can I get the internet on my desk? No, you don't need it. We'll have one computer at the end of the room
like
that has
a terminal at the end
of the room that has access to the internet.
Yeah.
That's all we're going to need. Oh, really? And I remember coming back from London and joining NAB and saying, hey, we've got to get some stuff up into the cloud because I need credit limits outside the firewall so I can transact faster.
Yep.
No. NAB will never ever put on the cloud, right? And guess what? There's internet on everyone's desktop. All the banks and are wanting to use cloud because the technology is awesome. I just see the same thing with blockchain technology.
Yeah.
I can see why there's caution now.
Of course.
And I don't know whether it's 25, 27, 2030.
Yeah.
There'll be a part when banks and traditional firms are going to be rushing to be implementing blockchain technology. It's so simple, and just the ease in doing transactions. You saw in London last year, for those in the banking sector, the LDI thing, where when Swazi Khatang came out and did that a mini budget. Gilts got smashed because people couldn't transfer collateral fast enough. You put collateral on chain, smart contract, it just moves instantaneously when it needs to move, rather than T+2.
It's nuts to see the inefficiencies that are there that could be solved by these systems, but it is. I do get why there is the caution, and it's mirrored from what we saw before. Because I was there when cloud was becoming a thing, and people had to be convinced that Amazon was safe, right? And it wasn't this like guaranteed thing. Now it's kind of, it would feel silly to question the likes of Amazon and the likes of Microsoft doing their kind of services, and Google as well. Yep. So it's really interesting to see where we kind of come from there. Now, let's take a crystal ball out, for example. Where do you kind of see us heading over the next 6 months to the end of the year, or 12 months to, over the next, or do you want to go out further? What do you think about when, you get asked a question like this about crystal ball? Like, where does your head go?
Well, look, my head goes, again, as we touched on, where's it inefficient and where's their fragility? Just putting my banking hat on, because that's easy for me. The movement of collateral is just, I can't see that. That's got to be, if you're a bank, the first thing that you want to get on chain. You want instantaneous movement of collateral, and whatever's collateral, whether it's bonds, cash, whatever. So I'd say that'll be one of the first things that traditional banks start using blockchain technology to adopt. But I can see, if you go out, and it's probably 2030 plus, where everything is on chain, and you get both. Think of your house. Your house is effectively could be an NFT.
Yeah.
And there'll be no need for a title search, because here it is. I have the title. Bang! It's now yours. Instant swapping one digital asset for another digital asset. But there's also the ability for partial ownership of a tokenized asset. So there's a whole lot of things. You can buy art, you can buy, if you can't afford houses, well, guess what? You can buy a little piece of a house, a part of a house. And that'll help people save. So I can see a logic that, and it'll start off with things of high value.
Of course. Yep.
But it'll go down and work its way down to, things like, things that are sort of a bit rare. whether it be luxury handbags get tokenized, things that are one-off or limited editions, and that could be handbags, it could be wine, it could be houses, watches. So I just see the tokenization gets down to a level where, almost everything's tokenized. Anything that lasts longer than a certain amount of time, not consumables, obviously, but...
Tokenized future.
Yeah, I see that. It's easy. And then you've got a record of everything you've ever bought. It's simple. Keep it in your wallet. Oh, I lost this thing. Go and claim on insurance. Oh, here's my record. Because, you can't find a receipt for something that you bought last year. I certainly can't.
It's very hard, and especially when some of these receipts fade away and stuff if they're like printed. But, interestingly, people are seeing that now a little bit because arguably AI and the use of ChatGPT and tools like this have had a far greater kind of impact in terms of being able to reach the masses, right? And people have looked at these and seen, oh my gosh, it's like this light bulb moment. Where was my life before generative AI? And if they're using it in the right way and not just putting out the output and like getting in trouble like some lawyers have in New York, but if they're using it in the right way, the efficiency gains that we've had from using AI tools, I want to see people think about this kind of stuff. I just don't see it's happened as much. Like the efficiency that you can get from having things written into smart contracts, from having tokenization of illiquid assets and stuff, and now you build a better kind of market around it, and being able to record and have things transfer more efficiently. I want to see people have that kind of light bulb moment, and businesses have that in blockchain.
Oh, look, here's another example. Totally different area is healthcare.
Yep.
Right. So you think right now, nurses go around at the end of the bed and they've got a piece of paper. They're writing down how did patient 1, 2, 3, and 4 react to today's drugs. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Write down a piece of paper. That piece of paper sits in the bottom of the hospital in a box, and then eventually goes out to Iron Mountain or one of those big warehouses.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, part of it's about patient privacy. Now, it makes common sense that different people from different ethnic backgrounds will react slightly differently to different drugs, but that is not measured because that person's African American or that person's Asian or that person's Anglo. We don't want to say that but if you use hash technology to put where the person is, are they overweight, underweight, and then you get AI to do all the analysis, you're going to find out who gets what drugs work on what people, without actually upsetting anybody's privacy.
Yeah.
And humanity is better off.
We can have that kind of sensitive analysis without
giving up privacy.
And I think I don't know if you can hear it on the camera here, but you can hear the big cheers outside. I think they like that. Or something else might be happening with the soccer. But, on that point and stuff, I mean, people know that we've been part of this RBA pilot project with digital escrows where construction payments can be made and it's very visible. And as long as work's been done, there's locked up collateral and the other side gets paid. But a lot of the complaints that we've seen, not complaints, but the caution from businesses coming into blockchain has been that, well, as soon as I've done a transaction, all of a sudden the other side can see my whole history of transaction because currently the blockchain works like that, right? You have this full-on transparency. You might be hidden in terms of your OX ETH address. So they say it's pseudonymous, not anonymous. But
it's definitely not anonymous.
Exactly. But with zero knowledge proofs, we could have it so that if you and I did a trade, you and I can see the amount if we look on the Block Explorer, but others looking onto that, they would just see a transaction happen between these two parties, but they wouldn't see the actual amount. So there are these ways to whether it's the amount or whether it's other, like you said, sensitive hospital, personal patient kind of data.
You can keep up here and not down here.
It's brilliant, and this is the thing, like, I want people to see more of this kind of stuff. So I guess our mission is to really showcase that a lot more and talk about, the projects you invest in, the projects that we at Not Centralized are helping raise money for, or even the stuff that we're building. What do you think that we need to do to get the word out there a bit more, apart from going on podcasts?
Podcasts, there is an education. Like we've been running around for JellyC, speaking to various wealth managers.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the breadth of knowledge about the space, as in some people are at 90 and some people are at 10 when it comes to knowledge.
Yeah.
And so there is an education, but I definitely think over the next 12 months, 24 months, a lot of real world problems rather than finance problems are going to get solved. And when I mean real world, real industry, building industry, agriculture, things where there's fragility, inefficiencies, high friction. Those problems will start to get solved. People come up with real solutions, and that's when you're going to start to see some proper traction.
I love it. And I know that we're going to get there. And Australia has definitely a lot to offer in this space. And for people that want to, learn more about you guys and stuff, like what's the best way for them to get in touch with Drew?
Drew at JellyC.io. And JellyC.io is our website. And there's Ash and Critter are the sort of other public figures that are on there. So happy to have a chat. Like I said, we invest in obviously exchange stuff, but we also invest in projects, and so we're looking at sort of startups, and we'll probably sort of start up a few ourselves because there's just so much opportunity in the space.
Absolutely.
So yep, and we're at 5 Martin Place next door to these guys, and also in Perth.
Fantastic. Well, look, that's all time we have for now, and feels like two podcasts. We've literally done 2 podcasts because of that little mistake I had before. But anyway, still working out the camera stuff, doing this on my own. We do have Chris helping us out from Digital Village from time to time. But for now, Drew Bradford from JellyC, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mark.